We have two presentations today. We have Mike from Now and Then, who is an incorporated company that has come out of Launchpad, and we'll be talking to you about his journey. Okay, thank you. Mike, I'll hand over to you.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to know I'll be followed by a handsome devil. My name's Mike Robinson. I'm Now and Then, effectively, the only person in Now and Then. I started my journey in January of 2019, just the same as you guys at Launchpad. We were presented with three problems. Out of the three, I picked enhancing or augmenting reality in the tourism industry. And immediately we pivoted because it's impossible to do that at the moment with using current technology, at least we thought it was. What we did was we researched our industry in the whole and found out what exactly people were doing in the tourism industry to augment it. What's an augmentation? It's anything that delivers something other than the experience you walk through. And it became apparent that there's not a lot going on, or there wasn't at the time we started. The bulk of augmentation in the tourism industry was basically a handheld device that you walk around pushing a button and listening to things that are delivered to you, or a static machine that you would touch and it would deliver information to you, or a telephone in a little booth by something that would deliver information to you. And those were augmented, guided tours effectively in the tourism industry. So having found out what was already there, we thought we'd see if anybody was trying to disrupt it. And there was loads of companies. They're all over the place. There's still thousands of companies trying to disrupt that type of market. And they either do it by creating special devices that you can view those tours on and have them delivered to you whilst you're walking around. We found that there are virtual tours on the internet. There are people trying to build virtual tours on specific devices. None of them are coherent. None of them are easy to operate. And they're all specifically tailor-made in the main, whether somebody makes them as an individual and then has to pay for it happening or not. So then what we decided to do is find out whether or not the industry was interested in changing the way it was. And all this, you have to remember, is pre-COVID, so it's starting around May, June of last year, 2019. What we decided to do was what Steve Blank says you should do, and that's get out of the building and find out what's really going on. That's really difficult now. I appreciate that for you guys, but you can actually make contact with people over Zoom, so it's a similar thing. You need to make contact with your potential market. What we did was we visited tourism outlets in the area, the likes of the Falmouth Art Gallery, the Maritime Museum, local historical societies, all sorts of places that have to do with tourism, and asked them what they wanted. And we spent a lot of time finding out what that was. We told them what was already there. We discovered that, for instance, the Maritime Museum in Falmouth was put up 14 years ago, nearly 15 years ago now. When it was built, it had specific static machines that it purchased, put in place, and has delivered information to people as they walk through the building. So for the past 15 years, people have been walking through that building, touching screens, pushing buttons at the rate of 300,000 people a year. So you can imagine those machines are now pretty dilapidated. Some of the changes that have happened to the tourism industry over that span of time are such that the majority of places like that you will visit rely mainly on charity, or they charge for entrance. Specifically the National Maritime Museum, it charges for entrance. So the only way it can change what it's got is to pay for it. It's actually got a grant recently, so it's not doing too badly, but the majority of the tourism industry can't just go and replace what it's already got. It needs to find the funds to do that. So we said, so what would be the ideal solution? And they said, well, you give it as free. So we thought that was quite a good idea. Always a good idea. Give somebody something for nothing. It also became apparent that tours aren't delivered just inside buildings, they're delivered outside buildings, so we also had a look at that. We found that there are guided walks all over the planet, through city centres, through town guides, through all sorts of things. So we took that on board and investigated how people deliver those. More often than not, they're MP3 files that you download off the internet, or you again hire a device when you arrive on site, or you employ somebody to take you around and deliver a guided tour or trail or whatever it is. There are all sorts of other solutions that they came up with, but it always involved delivering information to people at a site that they're interested at. We didn't stop there. We analysed population. Population trends around the world are such that in the developed world, and I use that in brackets because it's very hard to identify where that is now, but the average age of the population is over 40. In the underdeveloped world, the average age of the population is nearer 16. What do we know about somebody that's age 40? We know that people have children around the age of 30 now. By the time they get to 40, their kids are 10 years old. What do we know about employment? We know that when people go to work, they work 40 hours a week, they get 38 days holiday, and have got 2 days off a week. That's a lot of free time. They've got to entertain kids for 10 years once they're able to wander around with you. How are you going to do that? There's lots of holidays, lots of things that you need to do with them. So we looked into what people do. And people go away and they look at things. They go to Falmouth on holiday. They go wherever they go. It rains. Plans get spoiled. People don't do research about what they want to do. Mum always does it, or dad always does it, and they get fed up of it. Wouldn't it be nice to get the information you want anywhere on the planet on demand when you needed it? So we decided to build that. We went back to all of these people and said, would it be okay if we linked things in the outside environment to you and brought more customers to you? And they said, yes, please. So what we're trying to do is link like content to other like content wherever it is. We're going to create a database by the users deciding to go and visit like things. Not only that, we want to deliver instantaneously changes. So if somebody is running the art gallery in Falmouth and they decide that they've just finished changing the exhibition, they want to push a button and change the route around that, and they want to get that out immediately, we want to make that happen. So what are Now and Then actually doing? Let's try and use a computer because I'm not actually showing. Oh, it's never. Does math, don't worry. It's not going to show anything. What Now and Then actually doing? Well, we're not having a cup of coffee. We've built 2 sets of tools. The first thing is the ability for an individual or organisation or anybody to create a tour using a PC, laptop, iPad, anything. We've written it in, was that an echo? In native, so it translates across all devices. These tours are designed to be so that they're NAN-proof. Just to clarify what I mean by NAN-proof, I mean that if your Nan was to try and use these tools, she'd be able to. How many buttons can you see on that screen, guys? There's one, isn't there? So I'm going to create a tour. Hopefully the internet works here. I should really give it a proper title. I'd have to put my glasses on. So I'm just going to go like that. It's now got a title. I want to describe what my tour is to generate somebody's interest in it. I've just done that. I've then got a map. But down there it says upload a cover image. Let's put a nice pretty image up of what that thing is going to be. So if I push that button, automatically it jumps to my computer. And I usually keep pictures in pictures. More specifically, I file them so I know where they are. Somebody would automatically, presumably somebody would organise their machine to do that if they're going to create these tools. I'm just trying to find one that I know has got some information on it that I'm after. Right, there's a nice picture. You don't know what it is. It's a broken surfboard. Notice the message. It says, do you want me to locate that picture in space? I'm just going to press OK. I do. and all of a sudden it's moved to Praise and Beeble. That's the location the photograph was taken at. I don't have to tell the tool where to start. I can upload, I can type credits. This tool was created by Joe Bloggs, and it was sponsored by, and put some sponsorship logos in. The reason I'm doing this now is so that you can see, I'll deliver this tool so that you can actually, maybe I can't. Unfortunately, I haven't got a screen emulator on this laptop. But I just press the button, create a tool. That won't build a tour. All it's done is give the tour a cover image. The tour is then built using similar screens, first one being a point of interest. Point of interest, imagine you walk into an art gallery. There's 3 rooms. One of those rooms is a point of interest. You'd give it a name, room 1. A picture so that people can identify what's in that room, and then create a point of interest. Within that point of interest, you then can create unlimited content blocks that can include sound, a picture, text, and a title. Later on, we're going to be including video and augments. Unfortunately, current technology doesn't allow that down in Cornwall. Until we've got 5G, that would be too heavy a load to build into a program, because this will work offline as well as online. Once you put your content blocks in, you can then create another point of interest so that you've got multiple points of interest within a building or outside a building. Imagine you're at a panoramic viewpoint. You look over there, you can see a whole bunch of things. So this is your point of interest. Over there are your content blocks. You can put unlimited numbers of them all the way around. Then you can have another point of interest where you wander off and go somewhere else. Somebody's even said you could use this to teach mathematics. It can do virtually anything. It depends how you structure it. Basically, you say what it's going to do, you have a starting point, and then put into it the information you want it to deliver, and it will deliver it on location. So the university could use it to deliver lectures if it wanted to at some point in the future in a lecture hall. It will be able to do virtually anything. How's it located? It locates via GPS, but that doesn't work in buildings. So, I've left my bag over there. So if you go into a building, how do we locate these points of interest? We use low energy Bluetooth beacons that work on proximity. So your mobile phone knows where you are at all times. The app that and I've not talked about the app yet, the app knows exactly where you are and demands that you have Bluetooth turned on. The Bluetooth low energy beacon knows when you're within X amount of distance to it, and it triggers information on your phone. So we can actually deliver content by location anywhere on the planet as long as somebody's put content there. Sounds quite good, doesn't it? So where's my presentation thing again? What does it look like? It doesn't look like that. But we've built a delivery application for a mobile phone. It's currently being trialled, beta tested, as are the build tools. Who's trying it? I don't know whether you can see that, but we've got the British Antarctic Survey lab managers trialling it. We've got a couple of little things testing it. We've got Penryn's town mayors trialling it. The Cohort Hotel, that's the St Ives town deal. They've been given £25 million to enhance the experience of St Ives, and they're trialling it with a view to making a town tour if we possibly can. I've got to monetize that. That's quite a difficult thing to do, because if you imagine all this storage, somebody's got to look after it, and we haven't got 5G, so I can't say you're handling that storage at the minute. It's all on my servers. Who else have we got that's quite interesting? How about Julia Bradbury, Access to the Outdoors, Inclusion and Diversity? We've designed the app so that it works for the blind. How do you use an app on a phone if you're blind? Quite complicated thing. We've just raised funds, and hopefully that will be confirmed through Smartline this Friday. The final application went in, and if we've got the funding, over the next few weeks, we will be making the app work for the blind. It's also dyslexic friendly. Don't forget, it also delivers audio, so it works for the deaf. And working with Julia Bradbury's walks around the UK and things. If we can get this, and I'm fairly confident we're going to, I just need to find what she sent me. Not Julia, the lady that works with Julia Bradbury, a lady called Debbie North. She said, I've spoken to the Yorkshire Dales National Park and the plan is to go out and plot one of the miles without stiles, and then I'll show it at our next meeting of the access for all in November. Their plan is to convert all of the access for all walks around the UK and deliver them via Now and Then, because they can also become sensory walks. Again, I've got to monetize that, which is quite difficult. My original idea was simply that if you walked into the British Museum and you had the app on our phone, the British Museum charges you £7 to deliver a tour on their machines. I wanted to say every time somebody uses one of those machines, they don't anymore, they use a phone, and I charge 99p and the British Museum keeps £6. That's a very simple charging structure that would work, but not where you've got charity organisations deciding to deliver something. They're going to have to pay for the build, and they usually raise it via grants and things of that nature. So we're fighting for a way to work that out at the moment. I'd like to show you all the app. Unfortunately, as I say, I haven't got an emulator that works on my laptop. If I had an iPhone, I've recently found this out, and you should bear it in mind, so should the university. If you're using Zoom on an Apple computer and you have an Apple phone, if you plug your Apple phone in to the Apple computer, you can share your phone screen. You don't have to employ the use of an emulator. So I'm going to look to do that, because it's quite important now that you can demonstrate what's on a phone if you're building an app to people that are remote. It's very difficult to record a file that can be delivered over the internet that isn't very memory hungry. It's not that difficult to use your own laptop and share it. So I'm going to have to do that fairly shortly. So where have I got to? We've got a lot of people trialing it. We're at the stage where in the next week or so, we will be making the app feasible and work for the blind. Smartline have granted, or are about to grant me, a lump of funds that will allow for the app to activate what is behind every single menu on every single mobile phone on the planet, and that's alt text, if you've ever heard of that. So in your social media in the future, if you go on LinkedIn or Facebook or anything and you picture, you're missing a whole audience if you don't know what alt text is. Alt text is a description for somebody that can't see what's there. You can put it in, you just type, if you see a picture of a lion, you say this is a picture of a lion in front of a building with a man that is just eaten or whatever. You describe it so that a blind person's got an idea of what the content you're displaying is. Every single phone on the planet has alt text behind every single menu. Not one company that I know of automatically activates that. That's what I'm going to do. Also, I'm going to provide training for 2 museums in the local area. Hopefully that's going to be the Maritime Museum and the Falmouth Art Gallery, using a lady called Zoe Partington, who is famous throughout the world for giving that sort of training. She's trained people for the National Maritime Museum at Greenwich and various other places. I can't remember. I'm just making this up as I go along because it's something I know. That's really good. Once that's working, we'll be working on the wheelchair accessibility, and my app will be fully inclusive for virtually everybody, everywhere on the planet. And eventually you'll be able to download and retain stuff that you've done on the app and keep it in your history. It's really, really important to make an app sticky. How many people do you know that have downloaded an app, it's taken 5 minutes to come down the thing and you think that's useless and they bin it? How many people do you know that use an app and go, well, that's it, it's got no other function now because it doesn't deliver anything else? They get rid of it. So consciously, right at the start, we made the decision it should be simple to use, it should work very quickly, it should give people what they want, it should be free where possible. The tools are free, the delivery of the tools is free, the app is free. If somebody charges for it, we get paid. if somebody wants to build a tour and expects us to retain a whole bunch of information, we've got to find a way of making them pay for that, because we're not responsible for building tours. Is that about right, Joe? I can't see what time it is. I missed a call.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Mike. An overview of Now and Then and where they are. Mike, what's your biggest challenge moving forward?
What's my
biggest challenge moving forward?
The biggest challenge moving forward is the fact that we're having to pivot around the payment structure. It was really simple to start with. If people are going to charge for our tours, we have a pay button on the app. It gets paid through the internet, and the internet splits the payment between the receiver of the creator of the tours, and we get 99p or whatever it was. Unfortunately, that means changing people's perception, and that is going to be slightly more difficult than we thought. So it looks like we'll charge them after delivering the tools. The other thing is the memory hungriness of it. The more people put into it, the more it grows, the more server demands. Servers are not expensive, but the more often somebody accesses a server to have the information delivered, the more expensive it becomes. So if I were to get the British Museum to have its 7 million visitors access our app whilst in their building at my cost, it would be rather quite expensive, and we need to work out a way of charging that going forward. It might be that we create our own servers and our own backup, but that will not be for a long time in the future. So we've got to solve that fairly quickly.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Mike. I can give testimony to the fact that it's one of the easiest tools in the world to use. You might have seen my name up there as a tester. I have created my own tour of my local neighbourhood. It's incredibly easy, incredibly user-friendly to drop pictures, text into a tour and create it in minutes. So, if you want to have a go and see what Mike's created, what Now and Then have, please do contact him because it's incredible. George Fry is asking, how do you compete with Airbnb experiences?
I'm not in the process. I'm not trying to compete with anybody. The way it's viewed out in the marketplace at the moment by the people we're giving it to is there's no necessary competition. If you think about it, Julia Bradbury's walks are competition. No, they're not. Nobody discovers Julia Bradbury's walks unless they go and look for those walks on the internet. Anybody that's got the Now and Then app on their phone, if they go somewhere and somebody's loaded the content that they either charge for or don't charge for anywhere else, they'll get it delivered to their phone. So it's not a competition, it's a complementary system. So I Walk Cornwall, I'm trying to get hold of them at the moment in order to get all of their walks in there, because it will deliver. They've already got an app as well. This is a simple way of translating what you've already got in the form of content into a device delivered on somebody's handset, anywhere on the planet, when they need it, where they need it. It's not competition.
So you could be seen as an enabler for driving custom to other platforms.
Yes.
Or not to other platforms, but to other content.
Yes, one of the things that will happen the second we're making money is I'll employ a group of people to telephone all of those people that advertise on the internet, MP3 and MP4 tours of European cities. There's loads of them. They're all over the place. You pay to download them onto your mobile phone, and then you've got a tour of a city. Why not just put them into the app so that when somebody turns up, it's delivered, and they don't have to do any marketing? They will have to do marketing. They're still doing marketing, but it won't cost them anything because they'll put it on the app, and we only get paid when they get paid. That's the whole point.
Thank you. Hugh asks, do your in-app payments come under the jurisdiction of the app stores?
Under the jurisdiction of the App Store, we haven't put any payments in there yet. They will do because they insist on it, but there are several ways around that we're currently looking into. You don't have to use that payment system. You don't have to use Google Pay or Apple Pay. You can do what Amazon and places like that do.
Okay, thank you. Question from our next presenter, Jacob. What challenges have arisen as the sole driver of your company, and how have you overcome them? Do you plan for more staff as your client base increases?
That was a big question. Well, COVID. Imagine incorporating your company in February, was it, Joe? It was February, wasn't it? So we incorporated, 4 weeks later, the country locked down and the tourism industry closed. It's been closed ever since. Every single person I want to talk to has been on furlough for nearly 8 or 9 months. All of the people I need to talk to, if they're not on furlough, they're on an irregular furlough, so they're switching tasks with other employees because it's not fair that somebody's furloughed for all of the time, which makes it really difficult to get anybody to do anything, because you send them an email and they go, I'm on furlough at the moment. They don't tell you how long they're on furlough because it's an automatic response. So you have to keep trying to contact that person. It seems like you're pestering them. In the end, I end up getting their telephone numbers and ringing them. And fortunately, they're quite good about that. The other part of that question was?
Do you plan for more staff as your client base increases?
The second I've got the payment system in place, I'll be looking for at least 4 or 5 people to sit down and do some telephone marketing and help train outlets to use the build tools. Sorry, I was pausing for that because it's not that difficult, as you've seen, to use the build tools. But unfortunately, the people that do use these are not always au fait with the fact that if you've got a phone and you take a picture and it's got GPS on it and you've got Google on your phone and Google Photos and it synchronizes with Google Photos, that you can download onto your laptop that same picture from Google Photos and bring it straight into a walk. I've also been asked, will it be possible to build tours on a phone? The answer is yes. You can already do it, you just can't see it. You've got to scroll across the screen, it doesn't fit very easily, so we'll do a bit of a redesign to make that possible.
Is it just photos that you're able to upload onto the app?
No, photos, text and sound at the minute, MP3s, MP4s. The only thing it can't do is video or any other form of augment at the minute. Unfortunately, I have a nephew over in France, in Montpellier. He builds 3D tours for people. The load on a mobile phone prohibits the use of a 3D tour with lots of information in it, just because lots of people have got old-fashioned phones that haven't got that much space on it. And if you've got as many apps as I have on my phone, your phone soon runs out of space. And if you try and download a memory-hungry app to it, it just won't function. The beauty of this is it functions for virtually every single phone. I've had an iPhone 4 able to download it and do a fully functional tour.
Thanks, Mike. We've got one more question in the studio. I know there are 2 questions waiting online. Mike, I'm going to ask you to respond to them outside of Midweek Mingle, so we make sure we get some of those answers. But there's one more question here before we hand over to Jacob.
Yeah, it was just, if I've understood it correctly, I travel a lot and I'm a mum of 4, so I think it's absolutely a genius idea and something that I would definitely use as an end user. You mentioned about keeping the app sticky, so if I were, when you launch it on day 1, if you're relying on others to put tours in, and you're saying it's going to cover like the whole world, what if I turn up in the Outer Hebrides or in India and I go on it and there's no tours there and I'm then disappointed that...
Which is why from day 1 I'll be employing people to ring around the planet trying to incorporate tours. But the other thing I'm currently doing is sneakily getting the app developer that I work with to work on a way of... Everyone, I'm sure, knows what a macro is. It'd be really cool if a museum's got its data stored in a spreadsheety type or a databasey type thing, and you could employ a macro to take all of their information in one go and dump it straight into my app automatically at the push of a button, and 30 seconds later it'd be all over the planet.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thanks for that presentation from Now and Then.